What's up, guys? This is Daniel from Apologetics.com. So today I want to talk about an interesting post that came across from Huffington Post. Well, not surprisingly from Huffington Post, it is quite radical. In fact, quite radical to the point of being false, being very biased, and very anti-Christian, very anti-Christian. And so let's look at this article together. So you don't have to click the link if you don't want to. If you want to, the link will be down below. So definitely check out the link if you want to read it yourself. But we'll be kind of going through some big items on this link. So feel free to just read along as we're going along here. So the article was written by a person named Rebecca Klein. And Rebecca Klein was is a journalist for Huffington Post. And the title of this post is "These Textbooks in Thousands of K-12 Schools Echo Trump's Talking Points." Then the subline says this: "Their religion-centered, anti-democratic, anti-science, anti-multicultural message mirrors the Christian nationalism seen at the U.S. Capitol riot." So we'll be going through this. Feel free to hang on. Let's go a bit. Before we go, and please hit that like button. Please subscribe to this channel, and don't forget to share this video on all your social media accounts. I am moving away. I'm still on Facebook and Twitter, but I'm slowly migrating and pushing other areas, other social media accounts. And I'll probably be on those main platforms for a while, just like in YouTube and stuff like that. But eventually I'd like to probably move away from some of those someday. So feel free to join me on MeWe, Gab, USA Life, Corner Table. There's a number of different platforms I'm on, and feel free to join me on those platforms and share. Okay, so let's go through this article and let's look at it. Christian textbooks, so we're right here. Christian textbooks used in thousands of schools around the country teach that President Barack Obama helped spur destructive Black Lives Matter protests, and that the Democrats' choice in the 2016 nominee Hillary Clinton reflected their focus on identity politics, and President Donald Trump is the fighter Republicans wanted, a Huffington Post and analysis has found. Okay, so this is the big overview, and so it goes in a lot more detail, which we'll be discussing this and giving some of my commentary as we go along here. The analysis was focused on 3 popular textbooks from 2 major publishers. This is Becca and Bob Jones University Press. Now, I do know a little bit about these types of books because of my background with teaching and with education and stuff like that. So these books are not, these specific books I don't know about because these are fairly up-to-date history books. I do not know anything about these specific books, but I do know about BJU and Becca. And they're more just conservative Christian groups that have a lot of Christian ideas. Some things maybe I don't agree with all the time, but they're very much Christian ideas. Legitimately Christian ideas. Okay, so the term about the analysis looked at how these books teach the Trump era of politics. All right, we found that all 3 are characteristics by a skewed version of history by them. So they say it's a skewed version of history. What? Just so you guys are the arbiter of history. Really? Okay, this is interesting. In the sense that the country is experiencing an urgent moral decline, which is true, that can only be fixed by conservative Christian policies, which is also true. Like, we have moral declines such as killing unborn babies. That's huge, and that can only be cured by actually promoting policies that get rid of abortion. Language used in these books overlaps the rhetoric of Christian nationalism, which is an interesting word, Christian nationalism. I've been hearing this over and over, and it's kind of confusing. Like, I've never really heard this word before. Maybe I'm just out of the loop, but I didn't really hear this word used until the last few months. And I've been seeing that people have been using it for a while, obviously, but it's been almost used to an over amount now, and so much unclarity, so much lack of clarity concerning this word. Language used in the books overlaps the rhetoric of Christian nationalism, whatever that means, often with overtones of nativism, if I can even say it, militarism and racism as well. Ooh, it has racist overtones. Wow, okay, like I love to see that. All right. Scholars say textbooks like these with all. By the way, they do not give any racist examples here. Maybe they can make something up, but they don't get BJU nor ABECA promote any racist policies. Bob Jones University in the past had some interesting views, like many people from culture did, and I would denounce them like most people did, and they do themselves. But other than that, any modern BJU publications would not have any racist overtones in it at all. Scholars say textbooks like these, with their alternative versions of history and emphasis on Christian national identity, represent one small part of conditions that led to events like last week's riots at the U.S. Capitol, an episode that was permeated with symbols of Christian nationalism. Okay, again, I don't know what that all means, because I'm not sure exactly what Christian nationalism means, because I've heard a number of different definitions, and maybe I'll do a video in the future looking at some articles and some different definitions that people give out there. Some really way out definitions, do some more criticizing people like the Bartons, David and Tim Barton and stuff like that. It's like, okay, I don't always know exactly what they mean by Christian nationalism. So they talk about how that these overlap the events that happened at the U.S. Capitol when there's that MAGA raid at the U.S. Capitol. An episode was permeated with the symbols of Christian nationalism. Before storming the Capitol, some groups prayed in the name of Jesus. Well, duh, if you're a Christian, you're praying in the name of Jesus, and asked for divine protection. Of course, like, what do you think Christianity is? These people are so disconnected from reality. It's concerning. That they're even, I mean, seriously, who takes this article seriously? The rhetoric is so concerning, and the misinformation and the bias is really, really dangerous. The lack of knowledge of Christianity too, and the lack of knowledge of Christianity through the history of the United States is concerning as we go along here. Let's see here. They flew a Christian and Jesus 2020 flags and pointed to Trump's presidency as a will of God. Well, okay, if a Christian is promoting a Christian flag or a Jesus 2020 flag, that means that they want Jesus as king. They want Jesus in control. Now, the Trump's presidency is a will of God. Well, of course, God allows or wills people to rise and fall in leadership. That's Christian doctrine. It's not even controversial within Christianity. We know that the linkage between other leaders, God allows different leaders through time and history to rise up. Even people who are not good people, He allows them to rise up, and He tells Christians how to respond to those types of leaders. The linkage between Christian beliefs and the violent attack on Congress has since pushed evangelical leaders to confront their own relationship with Trump and their support for the rioters. Here's a thing that is very dangerous. Huffington Post, more than likely, which I don't sit there reading Huffington Post a lot, but I'm quite sure that they were they were encouraging and promoted the ideas of Black Lives Matter and Antifa. I'm sure they did not criticize them. I'm sure that they promoted their ideas. Same with other people within the secular left and the Democratic Party. I'm sure that they promoted Antifa and the BLM. So if they did that, then they have no criticism whatsoever of what happened at the Capitol. They have no moral grounding, because they did not condemn what happened before. And we'll be coming back to this a little later as we come down to the very end. They're going to be making a point which I'm going to be addressing with the riots over the year of 2020. There's a lot of BLM and Antifa riots that kind of dispelled this idea that there's this excessive radicalism on the right versus nothing on the left. All right. These textbooks made this brand of nationalism more mainstream, said this one lady, Kathleen Wellman. She's a Methodist University history professor. I'm struck how coherent of a worldview the textbooks promote, how thoroughly it resonates in the current culture. It didn't really say that much in there. You can read on what else they say here if you like. I'm going to skip this. I'm going to keep going down. to a different paragraph, and you can read the areas I'm not reading. I just wanted to address different big points that stand out to me. However, scholars who study religion in America say that many of the ideas present in the publisher's textbooks overlap with rhetoric heard at the writers last week. Just guess what? You know what? Some of the rhetoric, like they use the English language, so maybe English language is also part of this whole rhetoric too. You know, the writers used English and the textbooks were written in English. This doesn't make sense. Just because there's an overlap with the rhetoric doesn't make one way or the other. It might be true, actually. Christian nationalists argue that the United States was founded as a Christian nation, which it wasn't as a Christian nation. It was founded on Christian and Judeo-Christian principles, ideas, and policies. That is true. And many of the people who started the United States were also Christian or had Christian roots. Okay, goes on. And has a special covenant with God, which I don't know if anybody really promotes that idea. I don't know if I've ever heard that before. Meaning that citizens must implement a particular vision for this country that they will fall out of favor with God, which is true, because if you don't do the things that God wants you to do, you will fall apart, because God gives the directions of how humans should actually live and how we should interact with each other. And when we do that, we do well. What they're promoting here is a combobbled view of reality that doesn't make sense. Going down to the next paragraph, there's always a particular prescription. They have to be on God's good side. I think that's a big part of it. Okay, yeah, of course we should be on God's good side. I don't know what's going on with that. Passages from the textbooks reflect an overarching worldview in which America is constantly moving away from morals, a moral center, which is true, with Christians at the front lines beating back the forces of immorality, which is true. Think of abortion, think of LGBTQ behavior and promotion in our culture. We go on about many of these types of things, the double standard, the hypocrisy, the gaslighting, and all these other things that culture is doing right now. That's quite evil and quite concerning. So let's keep moving here. One passage in the 11th grade U.S. history textbook from Rebecca states, although many false philosophies were popular in America before the 2000, the new millennia herald a dramatic acceptance of immoral ideology on the national scale, which is true. So I don't know what the big deal about that. That's just that's just a factual statement. Three such philosophies are globalism, environmentalism, and postmodernism. Okay, environmentalism is this idea that we almost worship the nature that has come out to be, and have this pristinism in nature, like nature is pristine, so whatever is natural is okay, and that's false. Postmodernism is really concerning. That's a worldview, and that's really concerning. And globalism, which is like, if you want to think of it as a globalistic government, such as a communistic system. Believing religion, particularly, by the way, all those things are really concerning. Believing religion, particularly Christianity, to be divisive, globalist, discouraged its influence on public life, which is true, as this article demonstrates right here. By parodying such conservative political views under the guise of Christianity, which is actually Christianity, the textbook gives those views more legitimacy. No, they are legitimate, making it difficult to distinguish between fact and opinion. And no, your Huffington piece is fiction, okay? And that's the opinion here. While all textbooks, including the secular cherry-picked narratives, and their biases, these ones fuse a religious worldview with Trumpian talking points using anti-median, anti-immigrant rhetoric. I don't know if they even said anything about anti-immigrant rhetoric in this book. They just make a lot of claims here without evidence. Huffington Post's previous investigation of these textbooks found that they also dismiss evolution as junk science, and it depends what you mean by evolution. Do you mean evolution in the sense of Darwinian evolution, such as we all come from a universal common ancestor, and this is done by genetic variation caused by genetic mutation, and natural selection working on those, then yes, that's junk science. We did not all come from a universal common ancestor. That is junk science. What's not junk science is the evolution that we all agree with, and that is changing allele frequency in a population over time, and that is demonstrated in the lab and in the field, and we know that scientifically to be true. But yes, evolution in the sense of Darwinian evolution, yes, that's junk science. Characterizes Nelson Mandela as a Marxist agitator, which probably he was Marxist. I don't know enough about him to really comment that much. Who helped drive South America to radical affirmative action. So if he did help drive it to radical affirmative action, then it is concerning, because affirmative action is a socialistic policy and it is very dangerous, which is not a good thing, and suggests that Satan hatched the idea of modern psychology, and many ideas in psychology are really concerning. Read Freud sometime. All right, many of these schools that use these books also ban LGBTQ students and families. I don't know if they ban them, but they do not allow them. If you are a Christian, you should not be participating in these types of activities, including you should not be living together with the same-sex partner or stuff like that too. So it's not just LGBTQ, it's also sexual morality in general. At least that's what should be done in Christianity. And that's Christian doctrine, by the way, why including Christian doctrine also condemns homosexual behavior, as they point out here, but that's Christianity. At one point in that Beckett textbook, slavery is described as purely economic terms, saying that slaves seem to be better investments than indentured servants. Probably that's what the South thought. I don't know why that's even controversial. It doesn't. This statement doesn't say that slavery was a good thing, nor does it really say. I'm not sure if it's even starting about ethnic-based slavery, such as what we saw in the South of the United States in the 1800s. But slavery has been all over the world throughout all history. It is still going around, and it's still not illegal in many countries of the world, and it's still going on with millions of people being enslaved. So it's not promoting it, it's just making a statement here. And it's somewhat true. So I don't know why this is even a point that they make out here. It goes on to say this. This woman says this. It's anti-science culture, anti-elite, and identification of Christianity with a military culture. Okay, I don't know what to make of that. Anti-science culture. No, it's not anti-science. They go back and promote the roots of the scientific enterprise, which is Christianity. Christians started science with a Christian worldview. Anti-elite, yes, the elite are concerning, i.e., if you call that a populist, more of a populist mindset, yeah, of course. We should not have elite. That's how the founding fathers wanted the nation to be run without the elite. They wanted the small people to have their voice and identify with Christianity. Of course, they had a Christianity. With the military culture, I'm not sure what to make of that. I don't know. Keep going down here. We're sliding along here. When discussing President Obama, the textbooks accuse him and his administration of stoking racial divisions, which is true. Below is a passage from the Abeka history book. Many Americans' views about race relations and improved at the time that Obama was inaugurated. Unfortunately, Americans' view of race relations declined after Obama came into office. Race riots in places such as Ferguson, Missouri, and Baltimore, Maryland greatly escalated racial tensions and worsened strife between minorities and local police. President Obama's attempts to resolve these problems often seemed to make the situation worse, which was true. He made it worse. He's not a uniter, he was a divider. The books did not mention that such protests came in response to the deaths of unarmed black men, including Michael Brown and Freddie Gray Jr. at the hands of police. And there's other people that do die at the hands of police unarmed, and they're white as well. So why are they only pulling out people who have some sort of an African descent? And there's more people who are white, proportionally white, who die by the hands of the police as well. So, okay. A high school level textbook from GBJU Press also blames the Black Lives Matter, a movement for racial discord, which it is true. Black Lives Matter movement or organization is dangerous, is socialistic, Marxist, and it has all sorts of anti-family and pro-sexual immorality ideas, and that's really concerning. Despite President Obama's call for racial harmony, his 8-year term of office saw and intensification of racial discord. Several controversial shootings of black men led to protests, some of which, it did mention it, okay, which were of a violent and destructive, with black communities bearing the brunt of most of the destruction, which is true. Groups such as Black Lives Matter sharpened the divide between police and citizens, and black and whites with divisive rhetoric, which is also true. Mixed messages from Obama administration, the Department of Justice in particular, seem to increase the racial discord, which is also true. I'm not sure what the question is here. This is pretty straightforward and correct. The textbook does not mention that these controversial shootings were at the hands of police officers, or explain that this. Well, it did. I thought it did there. Several controversial shootings of black men led to protests. Well, if I'm not mistaken, it mentions Michael Brown, and I think Michael Brown wasn't shot by a cop, was he? I don't think he was. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong down below in the comments below. Tell me who shot Michael Brown. I thought it was just some concerned citizen, but I could be wrong with that. Okay, so the textbook does not mention that those controversial shootings were at the hands of police officers. Police officers kill a lot of people. Well, not a lot, relatively speaking, but they do kill people from all different ethnic backgrounds and not necessarily black people. And a lot of times black cops shoot black people and white people, by the way, as well. That societal changes Black Lives Matter, or is it trying to achieve with its supposedly divisive rhetoric? Yes, Black Lives Matter is trying to achieve societal changes, and it's concerning, and it is divisive. Other targets of the textbook include globalists, environmentalists, and multiculturalists, which is all concerning. I agree, globalists are concerning, environmentalists are concerning, and multiculturalists are concerning. I told you before, globalists, this is where we have international socialism. This is kind of where it comes from. Very concerning. This whole Biden administration, corrupted Biden connection with China, with Russia, and with Ukraine is very concerning, because it is true. Environmentalists, yes, environmentalism has become a religion in the United States, because people are promoting nature over anything else, pretty much worshiping it at all costs, with get rid of humans to promote nature. So they're very anti-human in their rhetoric. They do not want humans or something, especially if you read some of the sources. A multiculturalist, what do you mean by multiculturalist? Going to go on about multiculturalism right now. According to multiculturalism, it's quoted here, advancing the achievements of Western civilization was an act of hatred toward other cultures. Okay, yeah, Western civilization is the best civilization, by the way. It's not me being biased or anything. It's because the Western civilization has produced some of the greatest technology and the greatest advancements in the history of mankind. So, and it's based upon the Christian worldview. So why would you take issue at Western civilization? Well, because it has a Christian foundation. They encourage people to define themselves by race, sex, and sexual orientation, rather than by pillars of Western civilization, such as nation, family, and God, which is true. The whole messed up view of critical theory, which is based upon the Marxist framework of inequality, Marxism promoted economic inequality as being a concern. Critical race theory has upped that up and made it into a culture issue, with not just economic, but added a bunch of other items, which include race, gender, sexuality, and stuff like that, into all these other categories. And yes, those are some other ideas that are up against the Western civilization, and which is based upon nation, family, and God, which I would say is probably the opposite way around. It should be God, family, and nation. Which I would disagree with Becca if that's what they're saying here. However, many conservatives and Christians within America have attempted to quell these philosophies and once again turn America into a united moral nation. All right, we'll keep going down here. You can read through this yourself. Either read through on the screen, pause here, or just go to the link and read it yourself. Evangelical Christians were at the very bottom here. Evangelical Christians were one of Trump's most important voting blocs. The white evangelicals. Why do they have to point out white? I mean, why do you have to divide the country up into white and black? I'm not sure why we have to talk about. Why do you keep making this a race issue? Although white evangelicals are only represent about 15% of the electorate, they made up about 23% of the voting during the 2020 election, according to the Associated Press. About 8 in 10 white evangelical Christians voted for Trump last year. Okay, so I don't know why that's a big deal. Images from... Why did they put that white in there? Okay, whatever. Images from the Capitol riot felt more familiar than shocking to a 28-year-old male Garmin who grew up attending evangelical Christian schools. Okay, interesting. So someone who grew up in these schools says, hey, they look familiar. There were Christian flags. Okay, whoa. Of course, Christian flags. That's a Christian school. Like the ones she used to pledge allegiance to in the school, of course. And alongside of American flag. A lot of churches had the Christian flag and American flag. So what's the big deal here? The rioters' rhetoric focused around saving the country. Yeah, we need to save the country. That's not anything controversial. Defeating enemies and promoting the will of God, which is all true. I'm not sure why that's controversial. Could have come straight out of one of her childhood classrooms. I don't know why any of that's controversial here. Where she was taught a distorted version of history with nods of white Christian supremacy. Oh, really? White Christian supremacy? Well, thank you. This is weird. Talking about messed up and biased and a confused piece. This is one of the most confusing right now. Last week's insurrectionists. Ooh, well, what about the BLM and Antifa all summer long? Are they insurrectionists? Of course they were. Could have been her classmates, her teachers, and her pastors. Right. She felt most of those people, especially if you hear some of the language they were using, it's like, I'm not saying they weren't Christian, but some of them were quite unchristian in their language. And by the way, a lot of those people who raided the Capitol were at they were raiding the Capitol. They were going through the barriers 20 minutes before the Trump speech was over. All right. Over the course of my life, I'm going to skip the last sentence. Over the course of my life, I can see how that I was taught in a Christian school and has impacted me, and the riots of January 6th played it out. The whole belief system revolves around the idea that you want the rest of the world to think like you. Oh, so Huffington Post, you don't want... Wait, so Huffington Post, you're promoting this Garmin guy or girl or whatever she is... as a authoritative source. But Huffington Post, you want the whole world to think like you. So as long as everybody thinks like you is a good thing, but as long as I want everybody to think like me, which is, I think is a good thing, oh, I'm bad, I'm racist, I'm whatever, fill in the blank, a white supremacist, or whatever. No, you're messed up. All right, we're almost done here. Miles away in Kentucky, Brian Gibson, pastor and founder of his church, blamed the riot on Antifa antagonizers. Okay, so this is somewhat true. There is some evidence that there were Antifa antagonizers that were actually part of this, and other leftists, or at least leftists, who were part of this as well. And there's the number is probably smaller than some make it out to be, but there were some, at least few, that were leading the way. And then there was a number that, I don't know for sure if it's been confirmed yet, but there have been videos that really do seem like Antifa were destroying stuff, and different Trump people were trying to take them down. There are videos of that. That is true. You don't get 2 million people together without having some radicals in the crowd or some simple people in the crowd that you could lead anywhere right. Blah, blah, blah. It's talking about the pastor here. Another place is teachers in public schools that don't... Okay, so this is the last two paragraphs are the most interesting that I want to cover before we finish up here, because I think it's important. Another place is teachers in public schools that don't rely on Christian textbooks are struggling to explain to their students the dynamics that allowed such a violence to occur. In Chicago, a high school teacher, Raven Athmer, discussed the harsh realities of the insurrection with her students who were black. Oh, they had to bring in the race card again. Why? Why you always have to bring the race card in here? They think, quote, they think that when they had Black Lives Matter over the summer, peaceful protesting, no, they weren't. They were burning down cities. Okay. Hundreds, if not thousands, of businesses were burned down. People died. Cops got hurt. This was not peaceful protesting. This is messed up reporting. This is false reporting. This is why I do not like mainstream media, because it's biased and it's false and it's fake news. Trump is right on this point. Mainstream media is fake news. As this point here is right here. They were not peacefully protesting. There were some people in there that were peacefully protesting, but there was a percentage of them who were not. So you cannot just say they were peaceful protesting. They are not they do not, this person who wrote this article, or at least this teacher here, must not be criticizing BLM and Antifa for the evil that they did over the summer. Well, those on the right, like myself, are very much opposed to the things that happened at the Capitol when people destroyed property and hurt people and killed people. That's concerning. That's concerning. And what about the whole idea they talked about how that different blacks were killed by cops, which is a bad thing, by the way, especially if it's done unjustly. But there's a white woman at the Capitol who died, and where's the outcry in this piece? It's not here. Concerning. Peacefully protest, and were tear gassed. Well, guess what happened at the Capitol? They were tear gassed. People were literally storming the Capitol and nothing is happening to them. Yes, there was. Come on, where's this piece? This is called fake news reporting. Why would they even post this guy, this awesomer stuff? Because this guy is not telling the truth. One of my students said if 20 of us had done that, all would have been dead. No, it would not have been. You've been doing it all summer long, not you personally, but people have been doing it all summer long. It was not just black people. There was white people. Most of them were probably white people that were doing it. And there's some black people there and they're doing it too. And most of them are not dead. Most of them got away scot-free. And then this teacher said, no, 20 of you wouldn't even have gotten that close. So I guess they would have, because they did the 4 years before, and a number of years before, and different types of things they've got into nearby the Capitol and even inside the Capitol. But that's for a different time. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you do like it, please like this video. Please subscribe to this channel. Please share this on your social media platform. And as I do, let's just say, go out and give your world Christ.